Firelight lit up Florence Crest's face on the screen. She poured gasoline, struck a match, and smirked as Stagmere Lodge burned to ashes. The courtroom went silent. The lawyer trembled. The judge ordered a rewind to the moment the culprit showed her true self. And what came next? What price did she pay for her foolish actions? This is a tale of arrogance and the trap I set right in the heart of her self-built empire. Let me tell you everything that happened that day. Leave a comment with the number 9 if you're ready for this story. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you won't miss the tense twists ahead. Wishing you a peaceful day. I'm Garrett Falk, 42, sheriff of a quiet little county tucked deep in the glistening Vale slopes. This place has endless forests, winding roads, where folks still wave as they drive by, even if they secretly can't stand each other. I served 15 years in the military before coming home to care for my dad, Garrett Matthias, after his first stroke a few years back. He passed last fall, leaving me the land in Stagmere Lodge, a cabin he built by hand over 25 years. He called it his sacred refuge. Standing there with the faint pine scent and the stillness of the earth, I finally got what he meant. It wasn't just wood and nails. It was legacy, family, and every lesson on grit and pride he passed down to me. Trouble started when Florence Crest walked into my life. She was the HOA president of Larkspur Heights, a freshly divorced woman who looked like she stepped out of a 2010 shopping catalog, driving a spotless BMW that never saw a speck of country dust. Florence believed every problem could be fixed with a form, a fine, or a chilling fake smile. I'd seen her around a few times when she played housewife in the neighborhood next to my land, but I never paid much mind. That is, until she declared my dad's Stagmere Lodge a threat to her so-called neighborhood balance. My cabin sits just outside the HOA's boundary, exactly 15 meters from the invisible line she drew herself. It's not part of the HOA, never was, never will be. But that didn't stop Florence from storming onto my porch one Saturday morning, clipboard in hand, like it was a stone tablet from the heavens. I was fixing a rain guard on the window when I heard her heels clicking on the gravel. I turned, and there she was, standing tall, acting like she owned the place. "Hi there," she chirped in a shrill voice, as if stepping onto my private land was no big deal. "I'm Florence Crest, HOA president of Larkspur Heights. We've had some complaints about your structure." I stopped working, wiped the sweat off my brow with an old rag, and fought the irritation bubbling up. "You mean my family's cabin?" She pursed her lips, flashing a stiff smile. "Well, the wood here is untreated, and your firewood stack's visible from the road. It doesn't fit the area's overall aesthetic." I glanced out at the forest stretching to the hills, no soul in sight for a full kilometer. "Overall aesthetic? You mean for the deer?" That stopped her cold. Her face turned red. She cleared her throat, pulled a thick stack of papers from her clipboard and thrust it toward me. "These are the HOA rules. Section 12 covers building visibility, landscaping, and approved color schemes." I didn't even bother taking it. "I'm not in the HOA. Her smile wavered. "But you're right next to our area, and it affects the look. We're trying to maintain property values here. I don't like arguing, but I'm not one to back down either." I said flat out, "This land's been in my family since 1948. The cabin was here before your neighborhood even existed. Unless your rules come straight from the sky, they mean nothing here." I thought that was the end of it, but no, it was just the start. The next day, signs popped up along the gravel road to my land. "Residents only, HOA." They looked professional, laminated, staked deep, even sporting her fake HOA logo. One blocked the trail I walk, another hid half of the wooden sign my dad carved 18 years ago, "Welcome to Stagmere Lodge." I yanked them out, burned them in the fireplace that night. By morning, they were back, like nothing happened. Then came the fine letters, delivered in crisp white envelopes stamped with HOA letterhead. Violation, unauthorized structure. Violation, unapproved fireplace. Violation, attracting wildlife. Funny how scattering corn for deer was now a grand crime in Florence Crest's eyes. I reminded her, "I'm not in the HOA." I sent a letter demanding she stop harassing me, citing land laws, zoning lines, and the clear boundary where her authority ends. I even offered to talk it out civilly. Her response? She reported my violations to the local power company. Things got serious from there. One afternoon, I came home to no power, no storm, no downed lines, just nothing. I checked the meter. It had been manually shut off. The power company said they got a complaint. Safety hazard, unoccupied structure, severe risk. I had to fax land deeds to get it back on. This wasn't neighborly bickering anymore. This was a calculated attack. She wanted Stagmere Lodge gone, no matter how she did it. But Florence didn't know I've got more patience than an Easter Sunday line. I started watching, documenting, building a case. Every letter she sent, every absurd fine, photos of her signs, proof of tampering, statements from neighbors she'd bullied, I collected it all. I wasn't ready to use it yet. Part of me naively thought she'd get bored and move on to someone else. She didn't stop. One Saturday morning, I found tire tracks along the trail behind my shed. Following them, I saw construction trash dumped in the creek, old siding, drywall scraps, paint cans. I reported it, cleaned it up myself, and decided it was time to draw a line. I put up a big wooden sign at the boundary, private land, no HOA, trespassers prosecuted, short, clear. By next morning, it was gone, replaced with a plastic one. Future site of Larkspur Heights, Nature Park, sponsored by HOA. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just power tripping. This was a land grab. She wanted to annex my property, turn it into a fancy playground for weekenders. My dad's cabin? Probably flattened for outdoor yoga and gluten-free picnics. But the last straw, the thing that flipped me from patient to fighting, was the wedding tent. She didn't even ask. Trucks, caterers, florists rolled in, claiming my field behind the horse barn was perfect for her niece's rustic wedding, bragging the county gave verbal approval. I watched them hammer stakes into my soil, roll rugs over my wheat, set up white chairs like it was a bridal magazine shoot. Then the caterer walked up, looked me in the eye, and asked if I'd move my Massey Ferguson tractor because it ruined the vibe. I quietly went to the control panel and fired up the manure spreader. What happened next blew up online, but I won't spill it yet. While the crowd filmed the chaos and wiped wedding cake off rented tuxes, my phone rang. Fire department. A blaze had sparked in the woods near Stagmere Lodge. Before the sirens, before I saw thick smoke, before the acrid burn hit my throat, I knew Florence Crest had gone too far. This time, I wasn't standing by. Driving up the hill, thick black smoke rising on the horizon, the radio crackling with dispatch updates, ash dusting the windshield. I knew this fire wasn't random. Not lightning, not a careless camper, not a controlled burn. It was deliberate. That gut feeling, the one that kicks in when someone's lying through their teeth, told me exactly who did it. When I got there, Stagmere Lodge was gone. The flames had devoured the old wood fast, leaving a wreck after 25 years of my dad Garrett Matthias's labor. The porch had collapsed. The chimney stood alone in the rubble. The deer head he hung above the fireplace, my first hunt at 10, was ash now. Shattered, warped windows glowed orange from lingering heat. The fire crew was still hosing down the area, keeping it from spreading to the trees. I stood there, drenched in sweat, smoke clinging to me, jaw clenched so tight it ached. Felix Marlowe, the fire chief, walked over, helmet in hand, face grim. He didn't need to speak, but he did. "We found a gas can," he whispered, near the foundation, hidden in the bushes. I froze, trying to stay calm. Could be random trash. Felix shook his head, hesitating before going on. "Not that simple. The ignition point's unnatural. There's accelerant traces, multiple spots. You should see it yourself." He led me behind what used to be the tool shed. In the wet mud, I saw boot prints, not firefighters, not hiking boots, tactical, thin-soled, size 7 or 8. Not my crew, not anyone I knew, definitely not mine, but I knew who loved fresh, tactical boots for her forest dress-up games. Florence Crest. 3 days ago, I'd seen her at Pinecliff Surplus, haggling over a camo jacket, calling it high-fashion combat gear. Now, those same prints sat behind my dad's burned-down cabin, matching the pair she'd bragged about like she was strutting a runway in the woods. The clincher came later. I'm not naive. After that power shut-off nonsense, I'd set up backup cameras around the property, wildlife cams, hidden in trees and under eaves, auto-recording, cloud-stored. A little safeguard. Fire could destroy everything, but not remote data. Back at the station, I opened my laptop, skimmed hours of squirrels and swaying branches until I saw her. Florence Crest, HOA queen, in camo gear, sneaking around like a clumsy extra in a cheap action flick, holding a green gas can. She crept to Stagmere Lodge at dusk, glanced around 3 times, then poured liquid along the walls. She paused, lit a rag, dropped it with a smug look, like she was kicking off a ceremony. The fire flared instantly. She watched for a bit, then ran. No mask, no scarf, nothing. Just her pressed wilderness outfit and that gloating grin as she torched my dad's last legacy. I sat still for nearly 2 minutes, eyes locked on her face glowing in the flames. I could have stormed her fancy Larkspur Heights house, cuffed her in front of her HOA cronies and posh friends, but I held back. Not yet. This wasn't just arson, not just revenge. It was everything she'd done, to me, to everyone. Fake fines, scam signs, harassment, power plays, property grabs, lies. I started building the case, step by step, quietly. I pulled call logs, traced receipts, got footage from the gas station where she filled the can. I talked to neighbors she'd hassled, folks threatened with lawsuits over wind chimes or unapproved mailbox paint. I dug into public records and found gold. Her prized HOA rules were never legally filed with the county. Her authority? Pure fiction. It gets better. She'd forced every other HOA board member out, forged their resignation letters, sent them in newsletters, and crowned herself permanent chair. No elections, no votes, no meetings. No one fought back because she was too relentless, too intimidating. Now I had airtight proof, literally. Just one question lingered. Why? Why burn Stagmere Lodge? Why take it this far? The answer came unexpectedly from Florence Lavinia, her niece. The next morning, she showed up at the station, a young woman, about 22, nervous but firm. She apologized for the wedding tent fiasco, then hesitantly spilled some truths. Turns out Florence Crest wanted the cabin gone for a grand scheme, turning that whole forest into a luxe HOA retreat. Spas, trails, fancy cabins, all the overpriced extras. Stagmere Lodge and my resistance were her only roadblocks. She figured if it burned, I'd give up, sell cheap, and leave, clearing her path. I thanked Lavinia for her honesty, made sure she got home safe, then opened a new file on my computer. Arson, fraud, forgery, criminal impersonation, harassment, abuse of power. That was just what I had so far. I didn't storm Florence Crest's house right then. No, I wanted her to sweat. I wanted her to dig her own grave deeper with every smug HOA notice, every fake fine, every made-up neighborhood rule she pulled out of thin air. But the final piece, the one I never saw coming, hit 5 days later, right as I prepped the official arrest warrant. Emery Shale, my deputy, called. He said I needed to get to the county clerk's office fast. There, buried in a freshly filed permit request, was Florence Crest's signature on a claim declaring my land temporary community property annexed under HOA expansion plans. She'd officially filed to claim my burned-out land, and with that, she handed me the perfect final chance to dismantle her fake empire. Now, it wasn't about whether she'd fall, it was about how loud I'd make that fall echo. I could have nabbed her right then. I had the video, boot prints, gas can, paper trail, motive, and now a certified document where she claimed land she'd torched. But I didn't want just an arrest. I wanted a spectacle. I wanted every pompous letter she'd written to ring out in court. I wanted her sham empire, her fake power, her delusional HOA dream to crash 3 times harder than she thought she'd crushed my Stagmere Lodge. I got to work, quietly, carefully. I didn't just focus on the arson. I dug into everything. Her HOA board, personal finances, legal filings, shady cash deals she'd brokered. I reviewed zoning complaints and saw a pattern. Every property she fined or threatened belonged to elderly folks, single women, or people juggling double shifts to survive. People she thought wouldn't fight back. Mostly, they didn't. Until now. I reached out to those neighbors, sat at kitchen tables, sipped bitter coffee, listened to their stories. They had plenty to say. Barnaby Locke was forced to dismantle a tiny pond in his yard for being unpermitted. Bertram Pike got fined for non-standard holiday lights. Turns out he's Jewish, and she penalized his Hanukkah menorah. She charged late fees on non-existent dues, threatened lawsuits with fake law firms, and every fine came with a warning about property seizure to scare them into paying. She ran a little dictatorship built on fear, wrapped in bureaucracy. No one stopped her because no one knew where to start. But now they had me, and I was done playing nice. I called in some state office contacts, asked for a quick review of her fake HOA rules. My hunch was right. The documents were never properly notarized, and most signatures were lifted from a garage sale list from 18 months ago. She'd taken names of people buying old pots and folding chairs, then crowned them her board members. With that in hand, I filed an official report with the county clerk's office, flagging her HOA as illegal, starting the process to strip their authority for good. But that was just the warm-up. I wanted to make sure when she fell, she couldn't slink off to another neighborhood to pull this again. Meanwhile, Florence got reckless. She must have noticed I'd gone quiet, no emails, no calls, no arguments, so she ramped up, sent a mass neighborhood newsletter claiming I was under investigation for aggressive, antisocial behavior, with a blurry photo of me yawning at the gas station, trying to paint me as unhinged. She said I was harassing her, blocking her HOA expansion out of personal spite. Laughable. Then she held a mandatory community meeting at the park across from her house, passing out petitions to oust me as sheriff. She even printed signs. My favorite? No law outranks HOA. It just made my job easier. But she didn't stop. She hit peak arrogance, tried sneaking into Stagmere Lodge's ashes. My cameras caught her again, this time with a tape measure and Basil Flint, her so-called restoration expert. She was appraising it, appraising the ashes of the house she'd burned. When I showed up in uniform, she played it cool. Just checking the site for insurance purposes, she said, forcing a smile, eyes squinting like the sun owed her cash. Your insurance? I asked, letting the question hang. She blinked. Well, community insurance. We're taking over this area. It's about to be HOA property, mid-transition. I glanced at the mud where Basil stood, right over the old fire pit my dad dug with a shovel and aching hands. I clenched my fists, kept my voice steady. Florence, you're trespassing on private land. Leave now, or I'll add another charge to your file. Her smile vanished. Are you kidding? I'm the president of... No, I cut in. You're the head of a fake outfit with no legal standing, running on forged papers, guilty of arson, fraud, and about to be arrested if you don't get off my land now. Basil Flint shot me a look, muttered something about low pay, and bolted to his truck. Florence turned beet red, opened her mouth to yell, then froze. Maybe she saw something in my stare, not just annoyance, but the resolve of someone who'd held back too long. Next morning, I went to the county courthouse, filed the arrest warrant myself. No delegating. Arson, property destruction, filing false claims, harassment, forgery, impersonating an official, power tampering. The list outran her HOA badge collection. I convinced Judge Winston Lorne to sign off that afternoon, but I wasn't done. I reached out to her victims, folks she'd bullied, fined, threatened, told them what was coming, asked if they wanted to see justice up close. They showed up with folding chairs, popcorn, even a megaphone. As we pulled up to her pristine white house, Florence was mid-meeting in her front yard. Folding tables overflowed with clipboards, HOA flags strung everywhere. She had her back to us as I approached with my deputies. She was griping about someone's fence height when I spoke up. Florence Crest, I said, voice steady. She spun around, annoyed at first, then froze. I stepped forward, reading every charge on the list. One by one, her face shifted, smug to confused, then angry, finally panicked. I saw the moment it hit her. The man she'd harassed for 8 months, whose property she'd torched, the guy she thought was just a badge-wearing hick, was ending her little reign. "You can't arrest me," she shrieked. "I'm the president. This is illegal." I pulled out the warrant. This says otherwise. As we walked her to the patrol car, neighbors she'd tormented clapped wildly. Someone blasted a country song from a portable speaker. She yelled about lawsuits and freedom, then lunged toward her hydrangea bush like it was a stage play. No one cared. Just before the car rolled off, Emery Shale leaned in, whispering, "Want to tack on that wedding tent charge?" I grinned. This is just the start. Court day came faster than I expected, not because the system rushed, it rarely does, but because I made sure everything was airtight. I wanted no loopholes. I wanted Florence to walk in thinking she could weasel out like always, then watch it all crumble right in front of her. She showed up in a pale gray suit, oozing innocent from birth vibes, flanked by Vincent Montague, a lawyer who looked like he billed by the breath. The courtroom wasn't packed, but the key players were there. Barnaby Locke with photos of his demolished pond, Bertram Pike with papers on his Hanukkah light fine, and 8 others with stacks of fake fines and threats she'd rained down. I sat there in uniform, back straight, no gloating, just waiting quietly. Florence Crest, nobody called her that old name anymore, tried her usual act, She claimed the fire was a mix-up, said she was clearing dry brush, maybe spilled gas by accident, didn't know the lodge mattered or was in use, then insisted Stagmere was abandoned and she was aiding the community with a green project. Vincent Montague droned on about misinformation, civic duty, and clerical errors. But when the video played, crisp footage of Florence in camo, pouring accelerant around Stagmere Lodge's base, lighting it with blatant glee, it was over. The room went dead silent. Vincent stared at his papers, mute. Judge Winston Lorne paused, raised an eyebrow, and told the clerk to rewind. We all watched again, not a sound. From there, it wasn't about guilt anymore, just how guilty she was. Winston Lorne didn't hold back. 7 years probation, mandatory community service, full restitution. Not some slap on the wrist kind, but a court-assessed value. The cabin, destroyed property, emotional damages. The number jolted her. Over $1.2 million. Insurance wouldn't cover intentional acts. She was left with her personal assets, the BMW, savings, and of course, the house. I didn't cheer, I didn't gloat, I just watched her world crack under the weight of her own arrogance. But the best part didn't happen in court. It came 10 days later when I filed a civil suit on top of the criminal case. Not for the money. Insurance had covered some of Stagmere Lodge's value, and I could rebuild. I wanted it public. Every fake fine, forged signature, illegal filing, out in the open. I wanted it on record that her whole setup was a lie. And I won. The county reviewed her HOA rules, declared them void, legally worthless. Every move she'd made as president was nullified. Every seizure order, fine, threat, gone. The board, if you could call it that, dissolved. The bank moved fast. With her house tied up in court-ordered restitution and no HOA funds for legal fees, she had to list her fancy place for sale. Word is, it's still sitting there, a crooked price-slashed sign out front. No one wants the former castle of an HOA tyrant. And the community she'd tormented? They threw a block party the weekend after the ruling. A real one. Grilled ribs, cornbread, cold beer, kids running barefoot through sprinklers. No clipboards, no rules, no HOA ban on plastic forks. People laughed again. The air felt lighter. Barnaby Locke brought me a plate, said it was like waking up from a 5-year winter. I knew exactly what he meant. As for Stagmere Lodge, I rebuilt it. Not identical. Some things can't be replaced. But this time, I used fire-resistant materials, reinforced the frame, added solar panels, and built a stone fire pit out front. I even carved a new sign, in my dad Garrett Matthias' style, with a little twist. Under Stagmere Lodge, I burned in with a wood pen, Florence proof since 2026. I laughed when I finished. Dad would have liked that. The final touch came from Florence Crest's community service gig. Court-ordered, she was assigned to the county maintenance program, scrubbing graffiti, repainting picnic tables, cleaning restrooms at the public park, where she'd once tried claiming HOA ownership. One day, driving by, I saw her in a reflective vest, pressure washing the sidewalk while some kids filmed her on their phones. She tried turning away, but one yelled, "Hey, aren't you the lady who burned down the forest?" Her face then almost made me feel sorry. Almost. She still fought in her own way, filed appeals, wrote whining letters, claiming she was framed, misunderstood, targeted for politics. But no one cared. Every agency she hit up had the evidence. Every judge she begged had seen the video. Her reputation's dust now, and even the defunct HOA newsletter couldn't save it. But I don't dwell on her much anymore. These days, I spend most of my time at the new Stagmere Lodge, fixing it up, hunting in the fall, sipping coffee on the porch as fog rolls through the trees. Fog that doesn't mean harm. I planted wildflowers where the old foundation sat, letting the forest reclaim what was stolen. I remade my dad's memorial bench too, stained it darker, triple-coated it with sealant, bolted it firm to the ground. Sometimes folks ask if I regret not nabbing her sooner, if I wish I'd cracked down the first time she strutted onto my land with that ridiculous clipboard and made up rules. Maybe in another world I would have, but here I'm glad I waited. It wasn't just about punishing her. It was proving to every bully like her that you can't seize power through intimidation and dodge the fallout. She thought laws didn't apply to her. Fine. But don't be shocked when the guy she messed with signs her arrest warrant. All she had to do was leave me be, respect boundaries that weren't hers to cross. But Florence Crest never saw a limit she didn't want to claim, never heard no without trying to twist it into yes, so she lost everything. Me? I found peace, and maybe a good story for when newcomers ask about that old HOA around here. I usually smile, point toward the hill, and say, let's just say they picked the wrong land to mess with. Then I offer them a coffee. No rules, no fines, no paperwork, just neighbors. The way it's supposed to be. The way, if life's a chess game, every move needs careful thought, not to crush your opponent right away, but to protect your own precious squares. Garrett Falk's clash with Florence Crest makes me see today's society as a giant chessboard. People like Florence are ready to flip the rules for ambition, while folks like Garrett quietly place their pieces, waiting for the right moment to turn the tables. I really admire how he turned her arrogance into leverage. He didn't rush the attack. Instead, he let the truth guide the game to victory. It stirs a pride in me for the power of calm and strategy, things fading in a world hooked on instant reactions. The lesson? When someone cheats to take your square, don't jump into a fight. Keep your moves steady, smart, and let the community and law settle it. I want to clarify. This story is for entertainment and learning, not to criticize or harm any person or group. Any similarities are pure coincidence. So, what move would you make in Garrett's game? Leave a comment below with your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to explore more life's chess matches with me. Thanks for watching this video all the way through. Wishing you a peaceful day, and I'll see you in the next one.